Well, hello. On today's video, we're doing how much eating meat you'll get off of a pig / how a custom cut pig can best bring value to your family by choosing the right cuts that go in your freezer. You saw the one on how much eating meat you'll get off of a beef. Maybe you didn't see it. If you haven't, it's on our channel. We uploaded it a couple months ago. We had a lot of requests for how much eating meat am I going to get on a pig. Now's your chance to find out. So obviously you're going to need a pig. Today we've got a, what's he weigh? 214?
210.
210 pound carcass weight on this pig. I'm going to go over the cutting instructions. So this is something that we did for years and years when we were offering this as a feature, selling freezer pork or custom cutting if somebody brought a pig in. One of the great values about pigs is that you get a high yield. So 210 pounds, we'll weigh it at the end, but we're going to assume that we're going to be somewhere in that 70%, 70 plus from carcass hanging weight to actual package weight. When I went over cutting instructions with customers, I'd start basically from the back of the pig and we'll work forward. So one of the things that we've seen a lot or we adapted was the actual rear of the pig where you get the hams from. Pigs carry a quarter to a third of their weight right there in those hams. If we were just to lob those hams off, now every processor is going to have their own curing and smoking process. Were we to just lob those hams off, go ahead and put them into our cure and smoke them, you would suddenly have, I'm guessing here off of this pig, but probably 50 pounds, 25 from each half of ham. Now, some of you might say, I love ham. Trust me, you'd have enough to feed a village. And after eating ham, meal after meal, you would be like, this is way too much hams. One of the first things we address, there it is. Throw it on the scale there, Seth. You got a tear on there, so set your tub on there.
26.90.
Yeah, so with the hock on, you've got almost 27 pounds. You lob a little bit of the hock off, you're going to have 25 pounds.
That's a lot of ham.
Yeah, one of the first things that we do is we talk about the ham and how you should have it processed. What we like to do is we like to make these hams boneless, assuming that you're going to have probably 2 holiday events, which are Christmas and Easter, and then you're going to want some ham steaks. So we're going to show you what we do. We make these boneless, gives you a much nicer ham that we can then cut in half, or because it's boneless, you can cut it into quarters, and then you can have those hams for your holiday events that are going to weigh somewhere right around 7 pounds if they're half hams. And then you can also have some ham steaks, which are great for your family dinners. So first thing we like to do is we take the hams off. We do one ham, we do them both boneless, and we do one ham whole, one ham cut into steaks. Moving down into the pig then, we're going to have the 2 bellies that we're going to turn into bacon. Bacon, smoked slice 1 pound packages. That's pretty much what we figure. Now you can have your bacon cut at a thinner or thicker setting, depending on your personal preference. You're going to have probably 2 10-pound slabs that go into the smoker. So a little bit of shrink loss when you smoke it because you're cooking that. So you're going to wind up with probably about 18 pounds of finished ham. We'll get to that. Then onto your loin. We're going to do one half of this pig as a bone-in version, one half as a boneless version. So we're going to have pork chops that are both bone-in, and we're going to have a pork loin that's boneless. On the end of the loin, we're going to have both country ribs, a loin butt roast, some end steaks. And then when we go on into the shoulders, now this is where you get your pork butt from. So when Seth's breaking this down, we're going to have 2 different versions again, bone-in versus boneless. We're going to talk about a pork butt that you might have a larger chunk for pulled pork for your smoker, some nice roast, whether you're going to be doing your New Year's Day dinner with some pork and sauerkraut. And then we're going to get into ribs. The different ribs that we'll have from this, bone-in versus boneless, gives us a little bit of different variety of the ribs. And then finally, sausage. Now, one of the reasons we like to take those hams and make them boneless, it's going to add value to the sausage. So instead of having 50 pounds of ham and only maybe 20, 25 pounds of sausage, we're going to, prior to curing or smoking, take some of that away as a fresh product, add it to the sausage, and then we're going to increase our sausage volume by whatever we took off those hams. So I think off this pig, we're probably going to wind up somewhere in that 60 pounds of finished sausage. And then we're going to talk about what we can do with that sausage, whether we break it down into a portion of it as a breakfast sausage, a dinner sausage, maybe even leave some of it as a ground pork. So as we work through this process, we're going to talk about what brings you the most value for your family, what fits best in your freezer so that you get eating meat that works great every meal that you have throughout the year. Let's get started.
Let's rock and roll.
Seth's going to run the pig through the saw. He's going to basically break it down into 4 different sections: ham, shoulder. Now we've got the loin still attached to the belly. So, just that quick, first half of this pig got broke down into 4 sections. We can then start to further fabricate into those different pieces that we're looking for. So Seth's working on this pork belly. He's going to separate the spare rib off of this pork belly.
Working at extracting this belly so we can turn it into bacon. And I don't know about you guys, but bacon's something around here that we absolutely love.
Bacon's your prime possession off of this pig. He squares it up nicely. Obviously with pork, you're going to have your fat on your bacon. And as we go through this pig, of course we save all the fat. That gets further rendered down into lard. So there's our bacon slab. We'll set that aside. That's going into the smokehouse.
That's what I was doing with this little pile right here. This is that lard, the kidney fat that comes out of the inside of that pig. So we're going to save this. We'll mix a little bit of it into the sausage trimmings, which you'll see. Anything that we don't use, we can render down and make some pork lard. Definitely want to save your pork fat.
So this is where he's going to take the H-bone out of this ham, making the ham boneless. And he just mentioned the leaf lard that we add. So when we add this fresh ham meat into the sausage trimmings, you're going to have a leaner sausage. So that's where we'll toss a little bit of that pork fat. We want a nice juicy sausage.
I'm going to start with pulling that hock out. If you want to make a pig wing, you can use that to make pig wings. If you want to follow down along that femur, making a hock off boneless ham. You could tunnel bone this, leave this sirloin portion on if you wanted. We like making a smaller version. This makes a real nice ham slice, and we'll show you at the end of the video what those actually look like. Get that femur out of there, and then we'll just simply remove that sirloin. Cut just a little bit of that off.
So these are nice boneless lean portions that are going to go into our sausage.
What you're left with, we can knock just a little bit of this fat off of here. You don't want a ham slice with a big glob of fat on it. Fat is flavor, so we will leave some.
We'll go put this over for our curing and our smoking.
If you remember, that weighed 26.90. I believe that's the right weight. What's it weigh now, Scott?
So we've docked it down to 14 pounds, 13.95. Perfect.
That's a really nice size ham. So if you think about and what you trim off of it, you gain in sausage trimming. So just remember, if you have a ham floating around in your freezer from 2 years ago because you didn't eat it all, take the bone out, knock the hock off, or save the hock and smoke it. It's up to you. But it's just a nice way to make a really nice ham slice. Plus, you get those extra sausage trimmings. On to the pork shoulder.
So Seth's going to remove this blade bone or this chine bone, neck bone off of here. Some folks will save these, chop them up and make spaghetti sauce out of them.
You can smoke it and then chunk it up and add it to beans, bean soup. A little gland right here. There you have a whole pork shoulder. Picnic in the butt.
Yep, shank, picnic, butt. We're gonna break that down here a little bit further and show you what we got.
Onto that pork loin. As Scott mentioned, we're gonna do one bone in and one boneless. We'll do the bone in one first. We're gonna get some country ribs. We'll get those loin chops all the way through, and then we'll get a sirloin butt roast off the end. So we start by removing the fat. Once again, keeping the fat makes great pork lard. Apparently we need a little bit of a wardrobe change
Keep the
in
new
the middle of the
gear.
video.
This is it's got the Bearded Butchers logo.
That's a sweet
America's
shirt.
Butchers on the back.
Should have worn mine this
They're
morning.
brand new. They just came in yesterday, so I needed to put it on.
Now that we have this broke down into all the primals, we'll just get them broke down into smaller portions. So I'm just going to go down through our cutting instructions, typically like we would for a customer.
Seth gets too uptight for videos, and I get too loose. So and then Sean just stands over there and waits for us to quit fooling around.
Cut a couple picnic roasts. Gonna cut some blade steaks. So a blade steak is just when you take that pork butt and instead of leaving it as a roast, you cut it into a steak. These are real popular around certain parts of the country, other parts not so much. As we go down through this pig, I'm just going to be taking all the cuts and just setting them over here on our table. We'll get everything laid out on the table so you can see what comes off of the entire pig. St. Louis style rib, spare rib. Cut a nice sirloin butt roast off of there. Now we're going to cut some bone-in chops. Start with squaring it up a little bit. This nice loin chops. Getting our country ribs off the end. Nice country style ribs. Those beauties. We're gonna go through this pig pretty quick. So this isn't really a how-to. We've done the how-to videos here on YouTube. You can go back and refer to an older video. The main goal here is to just get the entire pig processed, get it on the table, get the sausage made, and then do all of our yields from hanging to box, etc. So if you wonder why we're moving it through pretty quick, that's the reason. In the meantime, our niece Alyssa, she's gonna pretty up all the cuts for us and get them out here on the table. One thing I did want to show you during this processing, sort of like beef, how you do bone-in versus boneless, which is porterhouse and T-bone versus fillet and strip. You can do that on a pig as well. So what I have here is a bone-in chop. So you can see the loin portion and then that tenderloin over here. The first half we did bone-in, the second half we're gonna do boneless. So another thing to keep in mind when you talk about yield is when you make something boneless, obviously your yield in a box goes down because that bone has weight. So we want to do a bone-in and boneless. We're going to do that on the loin. Two hams, two shoulders, two loins. 2 bellies, so 2 slabs of bacon. Number 2 belly. Just remember, if you get a whole pig, obviously you're going to get 2. If you only get a half pig, you're only going to get 1. So common sense here, folks. If you order a half a pig, don't expect to get what bacon you would off of a whole pig with 2 bellies. We're going to do the second shoulder a little bit different too. The first one we did blade steaks and those picnic end roasts. So this one we'll do a picnic end roast, and then we'll do a nice butt roast for smoking. Let's get rid of that neck bone. Trim it up a little bit. There's always a gland right here. So if there's a good chance if you buy a big butt roast from a grocery store, pull that gland out because you don't want that in somebody's pulled pork sandwich.
Sean's been over here doing the deboning, and then off of our first half, which was the bone-in, we have just a little over 25 pounds. And then off the second half, which is boneless, probably have a few extra pounds since the loin's going to be done a little bit different way. But we'll see what we've got here at the end, then we'll talk about our different sausage flavors.
We're going to make a nice big boneless netted butt roast for throwing on the smoker. I'm going to start with removing this shoulder blade bone. So we'll get this shoulder blade bone out of here, and then I'll hand it off to Scott, and he'll throw it in some netting for us. So there you have a nice big boneless butt roast that we'll put in a netting. Throw that on the smoker. You saw the bone-in chops where we did the loin butt roast, we did the bone-in chops and the country ribs. This time we're doing the loin boneless. So we'll do the pork tenderloin, we'll do an end roast, we'll cut that into boneless steaks, we'll do the boneless loin chops, and then we'll save a baby back rib, because if you do bone-in chops, you can't save a baby back rib because those are actually the bone in the chop. So keep that in mind. Just start like we did on the other one by removing this fat, leaving just a little bit of cover, but not too much. Now that the loin's trimmed to the fat, we'll go ahead and pull this pork tenderloin out of here. Just following that bone out. We'll do a little bit more trimming on that. Take the butt off. Now we want to remove the baby back from this loin. Pull that whole loin out of there. There's a bone right here in the end, so before you start cutting your chops, just have to get rid of that bone.
Stuff. Oh, have a Snickers. You're not yourself when you're hungry.
I'm okay. I'm trying to lose a little weight.
I'll eat it for you.
This is that end where you normally get the country ribs. You can see I'm going to take a chunk off here. It's not going to make the best chop. So normally we just put these in the sausage when we make a loin into boneless chops. We start them when we get a real nice, when you can start getting a real nice chop. So we'll just go down through here and make some boneless pork chops. Now let's cut some pork sirloin steaks. Remove the bone. Square it up a little bit. And just cut some nice boneless steaks.
So off our bone in, we had just a little over 25 pounds of trimmings. Off of our boneless cut, we have just a little bit over 30 pounds of boneless trimmings. You good now?
Scott said,
I ate a Snickers, so he's good now.
he said I needed to loosen up a little bit, so I figured I'd loosen him up a little bit. Little brotherly love.
You did a great job, Seth. So bone-in versus boneless. You see here we have our ham that's going to get cured and smoked. We've got a slab for bacon. Got a St. Louis style spare rib. Little pile of neck bones here. Here are those 2 roasts that you're going to use for your pork and sauerkraut if you just want a fresh pork roast. We've got the country ribs that come off the loin. Here's your bone-in pork loin. Of course, it has the boneless side, or excuse me, what would be a boneless chop, and a tenderloin attached by that bone there. We've got a nice pork loin butt roast off of the end of that loin. We've got these shoulder blade steaks that came out of the picnic portion of the shoulder. And then we have 25 pounds of nice pork trimmings. Over to the boneless side, we did this ham the same way. Again, we refuse to do those big bone-in hams, too much ham. Here's your belly, spare rib. Now we picked up a baby back rib because this baby back rib was a result of these being boneless, these loin chops. So the bone that is in your pork chop is your baby back bone. Then off of the end of that loin, we have some nice sirloin chops. Here's that tenderloin portion that would otherwise be attached to a bone-in pork chop. We've got our pork shoulder made into a nice boneless butt roast. That's going to go on the smoker. Again, a small pile of the neck bones. 30 pounds of pork trimming. And then we've got 10 pounds of fat. It's going to make a nice lard for us. So next step, we're going to package everything up. We're going to make the sausage. In this case, we're going to do 25 pounds of this sausage into a breakfast flavor. We're going to do salt and pepper. We're going to split that. We're going to do a portion of it as bulk and a portion of it as the breakfast links. And then on our 30-pound lug, we're going to do a small portion of ground pork. It's nice to have some plain ground pork if you want to throw it into your meatloaves along with beef. And then we're going to do some dinner sausage, which in this case is going to be a hot Italian that we're going to do a portion of it in lengths and again a portion of it in a bulk, do those spaghettis, those dinner brats, that sort of thing.
Maybe just clarify a little bit because you said 30 pounds of trimmings, but that was just this lug. So
25 pounds of trimmings off of the bone-in version of the half, 30 pounds of trimmings off of the boneless version of the half, 55 pounds of trimming altogether for this,
just to clarify,
for this pig. So next step, we'll make the sausage, we'll package everything up. We're going to show you the overall finished packaged product. We're going to get a weight on it and tell you exactly what our yield was. Here we go. Our pig is now in the full processing cut form. 210 pounds is the carcass hanging weight. Now, a pig's going to usually be about 72% from live weight to carcass hanging weight. So we didn't actually weigh the live pig, but with that math, we have him coming out right around 290 pounds. 290 pounds, then reduced to 210 pounds for the hanging weight. You saw it processed into what we see here. Now, standard yield would be right around 65%. Which would put us right about 135 pounds. But I have a feeling this pig may have yielded a little better. So we're gonna see. First, we're gonna put it in some boxes, and then we're going to put it on the scale and see what we're left here. But now we've got the ham. Remember I talked about the ham. So now we've got these beautiful boneless ham steaks, about a half an inch, 5/8 of an inch thick. We've got these nice half hams that we talked about, one for Christmas, one for Easter, and then there is the bacon. Certainly one of the prized possessions, if not the prized possession from this pig, is bacon. Can never have too much of that. And then we get into our sausage. We've got our hot Italian. We split it up into some dinner links and some bulk. And then we've got our breakfast sausage, which we've got into some of those smaller breakfast links. Now we did the bulk in half-pound packages. That lets you make some nice little breakfast sausage patties. We've got our little bit of ground pork and then all of our cuts. So let's get it in some boxes, see what our final yield wound up being. now let's head to the scale. Fat and bones. I'm going to set those aside. We'll add it in at the end. So every box, for the box and the packaging, we're going to take 2 pounds off. Ooh, little piggy, you're going to do good for it. Ooh, this pig did real good. So 170 pounds on the scale. We're going to take 2 pounds off for each box. So 162 pound yield. That's just the cuts. Now, of course, we have some of those bones and some fat here we could add in, but we're not going to put that in our final tally. So let's do a little math here. This is where you do like the little reel or something like that. 77% yield. Good time to remind you that pigs, we do not dry age them. So when the pig, it was slaughtered and then it's butchered next day. So we don't really have any evaporation loss from the pig. But an incredible amount of eating meat from a 210 pound pig. So let's call it 290 live, 210 carcass, 162 pounds packaged eating meat. That's delicious. Bacon, ham, pork chops, shoulder, pork roast, sausage, breakfast sausage, dinner sausage. We feel like this is a high value product for you to obtain. You can put this in your freezer, vacuum sealed and frozen like this. You're going to have a very long shelf life, a very high yielding quality protein that you can put in your freezer. Hope that the video helped you understand some of the percentages, what to expect, and what to ask for if you are able to get your hands on a pig. Get it butchered, get it processed, so that way you and your family are going to have delicious cuts just like so to put in your freezer. Hope you enjoyed the video. Scott Perkins, the Bearded Butchers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.